Thanks everyone for joining in. We are today, here to discuss a book that Jorg and I sort of put together after a fair bit of effort and toing and froing through the difficult COVID times. Um, it was good fun, and I think we were very relieved when it was finished because we were going mad while it was going on. So it's good to be able to share this with everyone and also share some of the stories behind the scene of how we came about it and what the book's all about. So I'll just move to the next slide. And can you see the next slide?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, good. So that's at least that part is working. So firstly, it's always a challenge. And, who knows in this day and age, someone's internet, if my internet goes down, I think we are all stuffed. So we will rejoin again, but hopefully it stays strong while we're doing the webinar. So thanks for signing up and joining us. Both Jorg and I will take turns, and we haven't rehearsed this, so this is going to be very, very natural. We might overlap in sometimes, sometimes jump in between. If you have questions along the way, feel free to raise your hand, and I'll try and moderate. I can see who's raising their hand, so moderate the questions as well in between. Jorg, feel free to jump in, when you want to jump in. So yeah, let's get started. The book. So how did the book start, and what the book is about, and why we wrote the book? I guess one of the key things, Jorg and I have known each other for a while. But in 2018, we had the opportunity to do a workshop together in Melbourne. Jorg was visiting Australia, and it was great to have him come to Melbourne and do a workshop. So, we made this structure, which was a lot of good fun. But while we were working on the structure and after finishing the workshop, we were talking about, as usual, as you do, bamboo and architecture and design and construction. And we sort of realized that we have a lot of synergies in terms of how we approach design and working with bamboo. And a lot of it, Jorg's obviously needs no introduction, has pioneered some of the biggest bamboo structures in the world. And it was a big learning curve for me as well, but that we shared similar principles around designing and building with bamboo. So we started talking about, different geometric principles and what works with bamboo, etc. And we sort of realized that the commonalities, and we said, a lot of the bamboo architecture that was built in the past and the traditional stuff sometimes tries to replicate a lot of work, a lot of other materials, and trying to fit within other materials, whereas bamboo has its own inherent qualities and allows us to do things like, different geometries which might not be possible or very difficult in other materials. And Jorg's done a lot of work around those type of geometries, which was became the basis of, why don't we compile a collection of ideas and principles that are shaping bamboo architecture right now, and where we would see bamboo architecture going as a way of differentiating it from other materials as well. So that's how the book started, around different structures, different geometries. What are the key principles? What would we like to cover? The other key thing was we didn't want the book to be just a coffee table book. It's not something just with glossy photos, but we wanted to include a lot of information around practical tips around working with bamboo, and also having these DIY guides that we can, share with people, like step-by-step instructions, or so that people can build some of these simple geometries. So that was pretty amazing to work through in terms of sharing. So now that a few people have joined in, maybe I'll do a bit of an introduction, which I actually forgot. So, my name is Munir, and Jorg, who is the co-author. So we are both the co-authors. I'm originally from India, living in Melbourne, Australia, and working with bamboo for more than, almost 20 years now. And Jorg is obviously doesn't need any introduction. He's worked globally, pioneer with bamboo architecture, a German carpenter living in Colombia. So we both away from our homelands, living somewhere else and having a lot of fun. While we get started now, I'll move to the next slide. So hopefully people can hear and see all right. Sane, thumbs up? Yeah, great.
Good.
Good. So next slide has moved. Yeah, awesome. So if you feel that I'm talking about something, but you're not seeing it on screen, maybe I moved the slide. I'll just say next slide so that you see, because sometimes because of the internet, there might be a bit of delay. So this is a brief overview of the book and what the book is all about. You can read the contents, and we will go through some of the chapters, and I give you a bit of a background. It's quite detailed in some instances. It's pretty heavy in some instances. There's lots of practical tips in there. There's a lot of project examples and lots of high quality photos. Before I move on to the next one, Jorg, do you want to add anything about the story of the book and how it came about? Did I miss anything?
Well, I know you for quite a while. You say 20 years. We have met at several international occasions. There are these World Bamboo Conferences, and you have been quite frequently a speaker at those conferences. We have also joined, when I came to Australia, I was actually on a trip to Vanuatu. I was working for United Nations because they had an issue there on Vanuatu. They wanted to build bamboo houses, and I had no idea where Vanuatu was. Somehow I knew it's beyond Australia. So it's actually somewhere in the middle of the Pacific. And I said, okay, I fly over Australia and I visit my friend Munir and some other bamboo guys that are in Australia, because it's not every day that you have the opportunity to fly so far and getting paid for it. So I went to see you in Melbourne, and I invited you actually also to do the layout and the script of my report to UN.
Yes.
So we did a script to document the treatment facilities or the techniques that you could use if you are somewhere out on an island, the techniques, the traditional techniques, and also the recommended ecological ways to do things. So we wrote a book actually on that, and that was our first book. And
Yes.
2 or 3 years later, we came up with this COVID thing and nothing to do. And we talked about, okay, let's do something that makes sense and resume 40, in my case, 40 years of bamboo construction, in your case, 20 years of bamboo construction. And it's not only about us. It's not about what we have done in 20 years. We tried to structure the book. And this book is only about geometric principles with straight bamboo. My idea when I come to a place is the best bamboo is the bamboo you have at hand. Sometimes it's a very thick one. Sometimes it's a very small one. Sometimes it's a solid stick. Sometimes it's a bamboo that is crooked and not really easy to deal with. So you still can make splits out of it or use it for weaving. But this book is only about construction with straight poles, either thick or thin, it doesn't matter. But it's not about construction with curved poles. I think that one will be the next book, still to be envisioned. But for now, this is not about contemporary architecture. It's trying to show how you can do geometrical curves using straight sticks. So that's the essence of the book. And now back to you, Munir.
Thank you, Jorg. That was pretty good intro into the next chapter. Actually, the first chapter of the book, which is we talk about understanding bamboo, and this chapter talks about some of the stuff already Jorg mentioned. It doesn't go into a lot of detail in terms of the various bamboo species because there's plenty of books around it, but it gives a bit of an overview and also provides an overview of the bamboos that are suitable for construction. and how you can use them. So it goes into different aspects of bamboo species and how they can be used for construction. There is also a small section around treatment and how how sort of you can treat bamboo poles to make it last longer. So it's a short but sharp overview around some mechanical properties of bamboo, what makes them good for construction, and also what are the key aspects that you need to be mindful of when choosing bamboos for construction. So it's looking at bamboo purely from a construction point of view when you want to actually build with it. There are obviously different aspects of bamboo that are useful for different things. So we've tried to limit it to be very focused on the construction side of things. The next chapter, which is kind of goes into a bit of a history of evolution of wooden structures. Now, this is building on a lot of Jorg's experience, but also a history of structures in general. So how traditional houses started with just sticks and wooden sticks and putting things together. Wooden architecture has shaped a lot of the design for bamboo in terms of how things are built, and a lot of shape Jorg's experience from his carpentry. And then we also talk about how architecture and design of structures has evolved over time, and how wood has evolved over time as well. Jorg, do you want to add anything for the wooden structures?
In the evolution of wooden structures, first you have round pole, like solid round pole, like trees without squaring them. So wooden structures, initially, they were a little bit like the tipis, like the different logs tied together at the top, and then you put bark on the outer side, so it becomes a shelter, a simple, rather triangular or conical shelter. And from there, things became oval, later squared, and up to the cathedrals, like the Roman Cathedral of St. Peter in 830 after Christ. The Roman Cathedral was a huge building that already had a king truss with 18-meter free span. So you see, within a few thousand years, from a simple log structure up to a complicated, high sophisticated truss building, there was an evolution, and this evolution included bridges, it included houses. The Viking ships actually were pretty much the other way around as a house. No? What you see there on the right photo, that's a Viking house, and it's pretty much the inverse version of a Viking ship. So there's a lot of things to learn from wooden constructions, from wooden log constructions. And my background is European carpentry. We have built things complicated like the cathedral in Paris, the one that burned recently. There is a beautiful documentary on the National Geographic about how to reconstruct the roof part of the Notre Dame in Paris. I love all these details, and in this book I'm trying to give a little bit of professional background on wood construction concepts.
Okay, thanks, Jorg. The next chapter is hopefully you can see the next slide. So this is where we go into this idea of material specific design and architecture, and this concept of the need for out of box thinking. That was kind of the underlying principle how we started thinking about the book, is what makes bamboo architecture specific or different from other materials. And one of the things we discussed and talk about in the book is that a lot of the different buildings over time have been influenced by the qualities of the materials. So when you are building with stone, you get a certain type of architecture because the material has certain limits, in the sense that it's heavy, you can't have big spans, you have small windows, you can't have big openings, those kind of stuff. Then when you move to other materials like timber, it allows different characteristics and expression. And when you move to, let's say, brick, it shapes its own style of architecture and own possibilities. Then came, steel, for example. So you can see the second building there, which is the, I forget now, Pompidou Center in Paris, um, which which is made out of steel. And steel allows this like lightweight construction, which is quite different to traditional stone architecture or even timber, because traditional timber, you need much larger sections to do big spans. So the aesthetic qualities are quite different. And so many times the aesthetic qualities of buildings have always been shaped by the possibilities of the material. I don't have an example here, but we talk about in the book, like how concrete, when concrete architecture started becoming prominent in the in the modernist era, there was a lot of, free flowing organic architecture started becoming popular. You can sort of cast shapes that were not possible before in concrete. So that shaped a lot of the concrete architecture of Calatrava, for example, Felix Candela, and a lot of the other architects who played around with free-form concrete structures. And so when bamboo architecture is kind of getting that contemporary revitalization, what does contemporary bamboo architecture look like, and how does that represent the qualities of the material? Bamboo has always been used as a construction material from very ancient times, for huts in villages, and then traditionally as well. But it was many times it was used as a replacement for timber. So you would design like timber and thus replace timber with bamboo. Whereas the hollow circular nature of the bamboo pole allows for quite a different expression, which is not easily possible in other materials. So we look at, some of the principles like the buildings that, Jorg was quite heavily involved in the Green School, and the one before that, which, the hyperbolic power tower, Jorg's favorite structure, and how that uses bamboo and geometry to distribute loads and support structures, kind of gets us to that possibility of, design that is trying to create its own unique style. And that's where, we need to think about how bamboo can reflect those qualities. Jorg?
Go ahead.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. We keep moving. So that's when we start then looking about geometry and how that influences design. So a lot of the times, some of the, very funky bamboo architecture might look like chaotic, but there are underlying geometric principles that influence that design. So although it might look like random, the geometry is what actually gives it structure. That's what gives it stability. And that's what provides its, strength as well. So in this chapter, which is the geometry as a basis for design, we talk about some of the basic geometric principles, starting from, two-dimensional shapes to three-dimensional geometries to platonic solids, which you can see here. And then we go into some of the more complex geometric shapes around geodesics and stuff, and also ruled surfaces, which is where I think a lot of the strength of bamboo architecture lies. And you'll see some examples afterwards of how they have been used as well. So ruled surfaces is something that is explored in a lot more detail, but we start about how geometry influences, shape and form. Jorg?
You can see on those platonic corpuses that we have there that all the corners, all the edges are straight. Yeah. So if you would have, for example, the tetrahedron, it's similar to a pyramid. It's just with 4 sides. So this tetrahedron is one of the most stable structures on Earth. And if you can use that stability of a tetrahedron, incorporate it somehow into a structure, into a house, you will automatically have a very, very stable building. Not the case if you're doing a cube. If you have 4 corners and you put 4 poles up, many people build 4 corners and put a roof on top, and then they are wondering, why does the building come down in an earthquake or in a wind? Because there are normally no walls. Initially, you just have 4 poles standing there, and they can actually twist, they can turn around, they can fall over, blow over, shake over. So a cube is not a very good idea for a structure. A tetrahedron is far superior. So from there, we tried to conduct the logic of a stability within the walls, within the stairs, within the roof shapes. We always have to understand that triangulation is very essential to get stability into a building. And one of the best inspirations I found comes from the old Greek, because they have figured it out pretty neatly. They pretty much went away from the box into tetrahedrons and icosahedrons and all kinds of funky corpuses. Also, for example, the circle, if you go from a circle into a 3-dimensional shape, you have a cylinder, and the cylinder is a wonderful inspiration for buildings. So during in the different chapter, in this chapter number 4, we are guiding you through the logic from a very simple triangle towards the different shapes, and then we are extracting it into the 3rd dimension. So you have a very clear understanding about how buildings can be stabilized.
Thanks, Jorg. So yeah, that forms the basis of pretty much the next part of the book. And before we go into the detail for the geometries of different books, I guess we talk a little bit about the design tools. And this is an important aspect as well. And if anyone's working in a design field, you would know that you go through different stages of exploration of design. So there are a lot of different aspects, and you might start with a sketch, and then you do a bit of a drawing, slightly formal drawing, and then you might build a model with the hands, with bamboo. I think bamboo skewers are the most popular choice to build different models. And then you would go into some of the more advanced softwares like Rhino and Grasshopper. So this section talks about what are the different tools that you would use to develop designs and the pros and cons and benefits. But it also shares some insights from one of the workshops that I did with Jorg and organized by the Architecture School in London, in Panama, from London, but in collaboration with Panama. And it was focused on Rhino and Grasshopper. And some of the learnings from there around how design tools can influence design. And it's quite an important aspect where when you build with a model that you're building with bamboo skewers, will shape your design in a certain manner because you can do certain things. Whereas when you do these things in Rhino, it will shape certain directions. But a lot of these complex softwares allow for pushing the boundaries that were not possible before when you are using bamboo. So especially Rhino and Grasshopper have been quite useful in developing designs which are more organic and free form, but also geometric and based on those principles. Jorg?
Yeah, it was actually John Naylor, an architect from
Naylor.
Architect Association in London, who invited to a workshop. And the idea was to visualize a building by using sticks and create new ideas, folding or twisting buildings. Then we did grasshopper designs based on those ideas. And we actually went into the jungle and saw that the palm leaves and other complex natural structures are following the same principles. So it was an exciting, well, you were sitting in Melbourne, but we were in the midst of the rainforest there in Panama in a retreat from Geoversity in a beautiful lodge there in the jungle. And we were basically having the reality of those complex natural shapes. We had the stick models and then converted all that into Rhino and Grasshopper versions John Naylor guided us, and we came up with very, very interesting abstractions from there. And I think it was a great experience to have those hands-on, and then the computer world, and finally we did even the real stuff, that we had 50 bamboo poles and we created those buildings in real size, like those ruled surfaces of a hyperbolic paraboloid. And I think you're coming to that chapter now.
Yes, yeah. So that's kind of a nice segue into the next chapter, which is kind of the biggest chapter of the book and has the most information, and it takes more than 50% of the book, which is the geometric principles. So in this chapter, we talk about what are the key geometric principles that would provide that stability and underlying sort of strength while utilizing the strength of a material like bamboo. So we've done a lot of exploration with some of these 4 different, and there are quite a few of them, but we've sort of done a snapshot of 4 key ones in this book, which is the hyperbolic paraboloids, the hyperboloid tower, which is kind of part of the same language as the hyperbolic paraboloid, the tetrahedron, which Jorg mentioned a little bit earlier, around how that is inherently stable, and geodesics, which kind of is slightly based on that principle of triangulation, but goes into a more of a spherical shape and a form. So the next chapter then looks at these 4 principles in detail and provides examples of how to build these structures as well. So it goes into sort of, I'll move to the next one, Jorg, and then I'll pass it on to you. So it goes into DIY projects. So based on those 4 geometric principles, there are 4 DIY projects that are included in the book. One is a simple shelter made of hyperbolic paraboloids. The other one is a chill out tower, which is the one Jorg and I built in Melbourne. Then the other one is Witch's Hat, which is like a gazebo type of a project that Jorg's done in Panama before, and a geodesic dome, which is kind of a simple dome structure using bamboo. And these sort of examples, these geometries, they are then, these structures are illustrated with diagrams and detailed text. So when we look at it, you can see that there's step-by-step diagrams that show how to build these structures, and also provides a sort of an explanation, a verbal explanation of how to go about it. So the key purpose of this is that people should be able to experiment themselves and build these structures. That's how we have learned. At least I have learned like that, and Jorg's learned like that, I'm sure. So the best part of this is to be able to actually build those things and learn by doing. Jorg, do you want me to go back, or are you happy to stick on this slide?
Yeah, what you can. No, it's fine. It's just what I want to say is the best bamboo is that one that you have at hand. Many people don't have those big bamboos that we use to make a 6-meter high tower or 12-meter high tower, and it's also not recommendable to start with such big poles. It is much easier to have broomstick and do those kinds of sequences at home in your garden. Maybe you play with your kids, you do a tiny little tower, like a 2-meter or 3-meter tower with those Philostakis aurea, with the fishing rod bamboo, for example. So in the beginning, it's good you just play around, and this book gives you the sequence, so you can do it with small sticks, and then you choose thicker poles, and then you choose longer poles, and over time you get experience, but you understand on the way the logic of the structural concepts, because this book presents different structural concepts, and that's why we can work with all kinds of different bamboo sizes. We don't have to have always strong poles in the 4 corners. We can come up with smaller poles and create very stable grid structures that are holding together, because there are dozens of poles, assuming each one a little bit of cargo, and as they are crossing each other, they are very stable. So I'm trying to get the architect or the reader of the book or the builder. I'm trying to catch them and get them in more and more complex structures. And thanks to the skills of Rhino and Grasshopper that Munir adds, we could make these very beautiful drawings, and the whole book is very didactical.
Thanks, Jorg. So moving on to the next section, which is the featured projects. This is the glossy part of the book, where there is lots of inspirational images about what we've done about different projects around the world. But what we have done is try to categorize them in some of those geometric principles that we mentioned. So you have the hyperbolic paraboloid, and some of these projects, they're not all done by me and Jorg. They are done by a lot of people around the world that Jorg's worked with. We all know, and they're following on the similar approach and the principles that sort of we have highlighted in the book. So it's a mix of projects.
But we are all involved. That's, for example,
yes.
The second picture is the picture of nomadic architects of Olaf Brun in Mauritius. But I worked with him. I did a workshop with him in one of his projects in Sri Lanka, and we practiced those kinds of composed hyper buildings. So also the third project is also designed by Atelier Nomadic. But well, I went there and built it, because there are not many people who can do this thing, and also develop it together with them. So all the projects that you see in the book have been developed in cooperation with architects' offices in Mexico, in Holland, in Brazil. It's never a one-person project. Also, for example, your projects in Australia. You have done a lot of amazing projects in kindergartens and all kinds of schools. So it's always a joint effort.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of different things, and I think there's a lot of collaboration that goes on when we look at some of these projects. So, this is sort of a snapshot and a collection of how, hyperbolic paraboloid, a simple shape, can be used in so many different ways. So what we're trying to illustrate is that although it might be a very simple geometric principle, the only limit is your imagination in terms of how you can use it to combine lots of different things. Jorg and I have done a few different, a lot of different versions of it, and there are a lot of different other versions possible still. So it's a start of something that, can keep going in so many ways. Then we go through each of the principles.
To you. It's basically an invitation. You pick up where we leave it. Yeah, we gave this book basically to you, so you have the basis. You can understand. When I started at Green School together with John Hardy, with Oren, with Laura to build these amazing structures, we did workshops there. We taught to other participants how to do those concepts in a sound way, so they don't move, they don't break, the bridges don't collapse. So it's very important. I did maybe about, I think, more than 100 workshops. I think more than 2,000 students have learned over the time how to do things right. And we wanted to document all this and bring it to you. So now you take it from here and please bring it to the next level.
Great. Yeah. So yeah, moving on with the next set of examples with the hyperboloids. And this is something that's always fascinated me the most. And how you can, it can be a building, it can be a tower, it can be a bridge, it can be so many things. It's such an amazing geometry. And we have here some of the examples. So these are some of the photos that are some of the projects in the book. There's many more projects, but for this presentation, to keep things simple, we've just highlighted a few. You can see some of the structures here. I think the one on the left-hand bottom corner is a water tower that was done in Siargao in Philippines. And again, Jorg and I were both there, which was great fun. And it's a 13-meter tall tower with a 2-ton water tank on top. So it kind of shows the possibilities in terms of
30 feet.
30 feet, yeah. Or 13,
30
yeah, or
feet.
10 meter, yeah, yeah. I was saying 13 meters, 30-meter poles, yes, yes. Um, but it shows how you can use the this how strong bamboo is and how much load it can take when utilized appropriately, and how much the role the geometry plays in providing that strength and stability. I think that is one of the core things, and there's a plenty of other examples. The sort of the collapsible yurt that Jorg has trialed and at Bamboo U in Bali, and the Sharma Springs where they use the same geometry to create a bridge to access the building, which is pretty phenomenal and amazing as well. Jorg, do you want to add anything to that?
Oh, go ahead. Time is running. 15 minutes
Is running?
left.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I think we are almost at the end, so it is pretty good. The tetrahedron is another opportunity in itself, and this is, it kind of lends into that space frame kind of a space. Space frame is like an interesting sentence. It's a space frame kind of structures where you can use the geometry to create structures which are more geometric but very stable. And Jorg's done a fair bit of exploration when it comes to tetrahedrons and using that as a geometry. So one of the ones is used as a project in there. This was done in Panama, not in Panama, in Mexico with, can you remind me, Jorg, the tunnel?
It's Lucila Aguilar in
Lucila,
Mexico.
in
The one
Mexico, yeah.
before is in Panama. It was a jazz festival in Panama with Geoversity. The blue one below is a reconstruction workshop after the earthquake in Ecuador. We created something we called the chief's hut, or what you will call it. The Casa del Cacique means the chief's house. And the green one, the greenish one, is with Cave Urban in Sydney. So we tried to create some tunnels that can be used on the festivals, to avoid the plain sun for the participants there. So there's a lot of funny structures, very easy, very quick to build, and they have a logical base, which is the tetrahedron, extremely stable, just 4 corners, 4 screws, and the whole thing becomes the structure. 4 sticks, 4 screws, and 4 surfaces. That's a tetrahedron.
That's it.
Can't get simpler.
Sorry. And the last,
and now this is your world.
This is a lot of my world, yes. So the last principle is the geodesics, and the geodesic domes don't need any introduction. Obviously, Buckminster Fuller pioneered the geodesic domes and how they are used. Created a lot of amazing geometries and domes with that. What we do with this one is using that principle to again build, show examples of structures and how they can be built. So a lot of the pointy Zoom stuff was done by us as part of a few structures in schools, and now we sell it as a Zoom building kit, as a flat pack kit that people can easily purchase and build. There is a small sort of Zoom cubby house as well that we have developed as part of that. Lucila Aguilar used some of the similar principles to do this installation in Mexico as well, and you can see another couple of geodesic dome examples. But this is only a start because
You're gone.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
You're back. Okay.
Back? Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I think my headphones might have played up a little bit. Yeah, so that's the bit of the geometric principles, and I think there are lots of images and inspiration in the book for you to have a look and explore. There's a lot of detail around who designed them, some of the principles and the ideas behind it as well. So that is something you can explore. And the last chapter is what sort of Jorg mentioned earlier. It's kind of, a concluding chapter, which is an invitation for everyone to actually take this further, in the sense that use these geometric principles and actually get on building. Because we truly believe that the best way to learn anything about bamboo is to actually start building. The book can only do so much, and you can read in the book, you can see in the book, but to truly learn, you need to start building.
Yeah,
Jorg?
you could say basically, instead of just do it, just boo it.
Just boo it. Yeah. Maybe that's something we should start. Good one.
Good title for the next book.
Good title for the next book. As long as Nike don't sue us afterwards for infringing on some of their copyrights. Yeah. No, that sounds good. So
Now
where
let's
to
boo
from
it.
here? Just
So
boo it. Yeah,
the thing
yeah.
is, basically, we are launching this book. Well, the first exemplar have been arriving at the recently, but since then I have already 500 books sold. You still have 500 books at home. You can ship them, and then we have to make sure we have enough money for the reprint. We are going for a second edition, and I also have already spoken a Portuguese and a Spanish version, so I'm dealing with the editors at the moment to get a smaller edition in this year. So for now we have the ebook and we have the paperback book in your hands. So you are, for the English version, you are in charge now.
Yeah, so you can,
Go ahead.
you can see on the slide, you can buy it on Kindle and Google Books if you want, or paperback. We ship it internationally, and there's a special discount for the webinar, so you can use that, which will hopefully, which will offset a lot of the shipping costs, because international shipping is not cheap. But if you have any questions, we can move on. Actually, before we go to questions, what next? So one of the important things that's coming up next year is a workshop in Florida. So there's a few people from US, and apologies for people from US. When we booked the webinar, I don't realize it is actually Thanksgiving holiday. So unfortunately, not many people could join. But I think I see Carol Meckes has joined from US. So special thanks to her for joining and making an effort on a holiday. But Jorg and I are running this workshop in Florida in January. So if you are, around in that area, and if you are interested in finding out more or exploring the hands-on sort of workshop, come and join us. You can visit the website, either Giant Grass website or Bamboo Architecture Unboxed website for more details on booking, etc. It will be a full 1 week workshop. It is at a wonderful place at Tropical Bamboo Nursery. It's a lush green area. It'll be amazing time of the year, good weather, etc. So yeah, check that out. And now we'll move to Q&A. If I'll bring up the discount code again, so if people want to see, and you can visit the websites that are here. If for more information, email for any issues, or if you have any questions. If you have any questions now around, just bamboo architecture, about the book or anything else bamboo related, you don't get Jorg too often to answer questions, so feel free. I think you can raise your hand or unmute your mic or put it in the Q&A in the chat as well. I think I can see one raised hand. Let me see, Yogi.
Yeah, there are some books. For example, James Wolfe has some books in Houston and in New York. Vince Math has a few books in New York. Robert Saporito has a box of books, which will be hopefully sold at the workshop in January. I have books here in Colombia for my workshop next week. There's still some places in Bogota. If you just catch a quick flight, there is still place in Buga, Cali. So yeah, we have books in Germany, we have books in Portugal, we have books in Spain, but it's the first 500 are running out, so there are not many left. The easiest way is just write Munir, and then you can basically find out how you get it from there, or buy the ebook, which is the easiest way, and then you can
and cheap as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yogi had a hand up. Yogeshwari.
Thanks, Munir. Great presentation. Thank you, and thank you, Jorg, for joining us. I had a question for Jorg. You did mention about earthquakes and the importance of bamboo structures in those zones. So, if you could quickly tell us, like, how good is this material in a seismic zone, and are there any regions testing these structures and working well? Thank you.
You know, like Simon Welles likes to say, bamboo is earthquake indifferent. It doesn't really care. It's a little bit like a basket, you know. But well, it depends very much on the weight of your roof. If you have a bamboo structure in an earthquake-prone zone, then don't put too much heavy weight on top of the roof. So you have to have lightweight roofs for lightweight structures. And earthquake, the Japanese are the masters of building towers, very, very high towers, and they don't have any triangulation in there. So it's amazing. They're dealing basically with trapezoids. And there's so many tricks to go around earthquake. I don't really, this book is not focusing on earthquake, it's focusing on sound structures, but they are lightweight structures and they only can carry so much. Like a water tower, for example, is pretty easy because if the earthquake comes, the water just swaps out. It's not like a big concrete block. That would be different.
Thank you.
Yeah. And adding to that, I think there are a few organizations like Base Baha'i in Philippines. They're doing a lot of work and research around bamboo housing and affordable bamboo housing and doing earthquake testing and cyclone testing for those structures as well. But in general, because bamboo is flexible, it moves and it doesn't snap or crack as easily. And that provides a lot of strength during those earthquake situations. But there's been a lot of structural testing done, and Base Baha'i has been doing quite a bit of that as well. So,
thanks.
Any other
Yeah, there is a
questions?
question about
Yeah.
if we want to give books away for free. We gave a few books away for free, but you know, there are so many thousands of education institutions in the world, and they have pretty good budgets. They can also buy good books. They don't have to get them for free. And I think free is only as good as it reaches a few people. But if you want to have mass education, you must have a return on investment. I don't want to make money with the book. This book is actually, most of the costs of the books are shipping and printing. And it's not that we make money on the books. I wanted to get those ideas out there because to me, it's more interesting to gain a client. If I throw out a good book, people may get interested and they will hire me or Munir later. And that's where it's a little bit like a marketing tool. But the cost of the book, and as it is a very small edition of only 1,000 editions for now, 1,000 printouts. So it is actually a very expensive book. It's not competitive on just another book market. It is a book that is rather for specialists, and specialists will probably also be able to pay for it because the errors that you can avoid will save you so much money just by doing it right and do it in a sound structural way. It will always pay off.
Thanks, Jorg. Yeah, if there are specific educational institutions, maybe there is possibility for ebooks because, that's easier than the printed copy. It just takes so much to get these things printed and shipped. But, that can be explored further, I think. Kevin has his hand up.
Yeah, hi. I can't do the camera. I hope you can hear me because I'm actually driving.
Sure.
First of all, I just wanted to say hi to Jorg because we've met each other literally 10 years ago in Hawassa, Ethiopia, and had coffee. I don't know if you remembers this. I hope so. He gave me a lot of material back then on a flash drive that unfortunately I've never been able to use due to life things. My question really comes down to when is the next workshop in Melbourne? Because that's where I'm living now.
We haven't planned anything in Melbourne yet, unfortunately, but hopefully next year, I think we should plan something. Yeah, we had one workshop recently, which was a free community workshop, not of this scale, because it takes a lot of effort to plan a big workshop with full construction. It was a more community workshop in Glenroy in Melbourne, in one of the suburbs. But hopefully next year, I'm looking at planning something, whether it's in Melbourne or in another part of Australia, where we can do something bigger, potentially at Ceres. So if you are in Melbourne, you'd know Ceres in Brunswick. We're looking at exploring an opportunity to do something there.
Amazing. I live in Brunswick, so that would be great.
Nice. Well, I'm in Coburg, so not too far. Come and say hi.
Maybe we should meet up. That would be awesome as well. I have
Yeah.
a huge project in mind actually as well.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, let's get in touch. It's funny how people living in two suburbs next to each other find each other through an online forum across the world.
Yeah, right. The amazing thing is, I haven't been getting any emails from Giant Grass except for this one. And then I saw it was Jorg on the webinar as well. I'm like, 10 years later, are you serious? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have been a bit slack in terms of our emails or, promoting anything. Hopefully we get a bit better for regular emails and updates from now on. But let's catch up and maybe we work out something.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Charles, I can see you. But we can't hear you. Not yet, no. Maybe something with your microphone. So if you don't, yeah. Do you want to maybe type your question if it doesn't work?
Look, Munir, it's 9:30 here, kind of closing in a little bit. I think people have made contact with us. They have got a glimpse of the book. This book is what we leave for you, and you take it on to the next level, please. And if you think in workshops, there are so many people all over the world offering workshops. I'm actually a little bit tired of giving workshops. At least I'm never repeating. I'm always doing new stuff and workshops.
Yeah.
Each one of these projects in the book is a possible workshop. So you can do it also yourself. You can play it with your kids. You can do it in the kindergarten. You can do it in school. You can use it for your Boy Scouts weekend happening. So there's a lot of possibilities to do your own workshop, and you don't even have to pay for it. You just have to do it. So I think the message of this book is not marketing of workshops. The message is basically get those ideas, make a stick model, and take it to the next level.
Great. Thanks, Jorg. Charles, are you on? Not yet, no. Does anyone have any other question? Unless we move, we call it a close, or while Charles figures out his IT issues.
Okay, Munir, I find it, thank you very much for this effort to get this launch out to the people. and I hope you get a lot of feedback, and I hope we will be able to print the next 1,000 books. So it's quite an investment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll
Anyway,
get there somewhere.
Yeah. I'm happy to meet you again on one of these international events. I think the next one is on your purse. You have to fly to America. That's at least a $5,000 flight. So
Yes.
when I came to your place, I had the good luck that an institution sent me to Vanuatu, paid basically for the flight, but we cannot do just workshops just for fun. It has to make sense. Somebody has to pay for the flights. It has to be combined with another job. And I'm very happy that you're coming to Miami, or at least to Florida. And then
Florida,
we
yeah.
will have fun. It's in 6 weeks. So I think there is still, we only have 5 or 6 participants for now, but this is Thanksgiving weekend. So I think many people will start planning what to do in their cold months. So flying to Florida is a pretty warm idea. So I think it's a good idea to meet us there. And yeah, goodbye, good night.
Okay.
Because here it's already pretty late. And I wish you good luck. Let's talk tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.